Well, a very big welcome to you all dialing in from all around Australia live today and internationally as well, Singapore, India, wherever you might be dialing in from, the USA as well. Welcome to you all. Or you might be listening to this on your favorite streaming service, walking down the beach or wherever you might be. Welcome to the Coaching Cafe. My name is Natalie Ashdown from the Open Door Coaching Group. I'm joined here with Paula Jones Hunt. And welcome to today's cafe, where we're going to be talking about what if I know the answer in our coaching. Now, I know there's a lot of very senior coaches, very experienced coaches on the line. It's really good for us to think about this, even if you are a super experienced coach, to think about what's our position on this, how do we approach it, and also how do we coach others when they have this question or this question comes out within your training or coaching or the work that you're doing in supervising and mentoring coaches as well. So before we begin, let me acknowledge the traditional owners, the custodians on the lands on which we meet today, and their continuing connection to the land, the waters, the communities of Australia, and the lands from all around the world where you might be joining us today or listening on your favourite streaming service as well. We pay our respects to them, to elders past, present, and emerging, and elders from Indigenous communities from all around the world. So as I said, it's great to be back with you today live. We had a couple of weeks off chasing the sun, and it's great to be introducing you over the next few weeks to real topics in coaching in the workplace. I'm sure that all of you listening to this would have seen our topic today, would have heard our topic today, and we're going to spend some time, as I mentioned, over the next few weeks exploring these real topics so that we think about our own approach. We think about how we coach others, how we supervise and mentor and lead coaching in the workplace. And so the topic today is, what if I know the answer? So coaching's great and we really understand this, but what if I know the answer? What do I do about that? And this topic, we hear this all the time. Every single time we go out to play, delivering a Leader as Coach program or delivering any of our coaching programs, this topic always comes up. I was walking through the office the other day listening to Bridget delivering our programs, and I heard her say, "Oh, great question." And I heard the question and it was just this. It was this exact question. So it's not just rookie coaches that need to think about this. It's also us as experienced coaches, because we're not alone in perhaps thinking we know the answer. And I coached a very experienced coach just during the week, and she was saying she was wrestling with that. I know the answer. I'm under pressure. I have to help this person deliver results. So what do we do about this? So it's not just rookie coaches that experience this, these thoughts. We're going to think about it for ourselves as well. And what's the coaching approach is what we're thinking about here as well. So if you're new to the Coaching Cafe, welcome. As we say every week, we're all about creating a community, creating shared learning experience, having thought-provoking conversations. If you're a regular, welcome back. You know we love having these coaching cafes, catching up with you every Friday to have these conversations. Please feel free to hit up the chat, pop your message in the chat box, and we can catch up there with your thoughts and your comments and your suggestions. That would be great to have your input as we go along. And of course, if you are here because you would like to collect your ICF CCEs, your continuing coach education units, we offer these for free. At the end of our session, we'll put it up and you can simply grab a screenshot. So there you go. That's the spiel and the admin. Let's get into our conversation of today. So invariably, when we're thinking about coaching and where does this conversation come from, there's a couple of things I think about, and the trigger is normally with rookie coaches, learning coaches, people who are starting out. They appreciate that coaching is great, and it has its benefits, and it looks like it's working and it's terrific. But what if I know what they should do? What happens then? And literally, I was coaching on Tuesday. I was doing an in-house workshop, and this exact thing came out. This exact statement came out, and so I said, "Well, blah 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 blah," and gave the explanations as I'm about to with you all. And they said, "Yeah, that's all really great." So even though I explained that we need to allow the person to find the answer for themselves, blah blah blah, they went, "Yes, I know that." but I really know what they should do. And I feel like I really need to tell them, what do you do about that? So I did the blah, blah, blah explanation again, stay out of the space, etc. Allow them to discover. And this person doubled down. They said, I know that. I'm not questioning coaching. I think coaching is great, but I know what they need to do. So I turned to the person who was the coachee and I said, do you want their opinion on this? And the coachee said, no. And it was a bit of a moment, Paula, I'm seeing your face. And it was a bit of a confronting moment. But I thought, this person has got, and I changed things the way I explained it, etc. But the person has gone not once, but twice or three times, insisting that they need to tell the person what they need to do because they have the answer. And in the end, I just said, people don't necessarily need our opinion. What they need is this, this, and this. So just hold the space, ask your great questions, trust the process. And in the end, I just doubled down to myself and said, do you want their opinion? And they said, they were very good. They said, no, not yet. I'm coming up with my own options. So I know there's this strong urge and desire and need to help, but it's not necessarily what the coachee wants. And it was a bit of a lesson for that person. And to their credit, they took on the feedback. We debriefed it at the end of the Grow model. We debriefed it and what their experience was, and they learned something, and that was all great. But it was that kind of moment where we all went, okay. So anyway, that's why I'm sharing this with you today as well. Paula, I can see you nodding.
Well, I'm just nodding because early on in my career, before I discovered coaching, the piece of feedback I was given was that, having worked in HR, was, Paula, your managers think you are extremely knowledgeable, but they are all intimidated by you because they come to your office and you tell them exactly what they need to do. I tell them what they need to do, and then they don't know it. They then don't go do it because they're not sure how to do it. That it doesn't work for them. And it was that little moment where you go, well, I do have an answer for you, but if it's not the answer that works for the person, then it's actually not as helpful as you think it is.
Yeah, I remember the conversations we had all those thousands of years ago when it was that you'd give people advice and tell them exactly what to do, and then they'd go into meetings and not implement, or they'd muck it up, or it's like, I told them what to do. I'm like, yes, well, now we need to coach them. So, and we've all been, thank you for sharing that, because I think we've all been through those moments as well. As purpose-built problem solvers and as subject matter experts, we've had that experience. Now it's good lesson actually for experienced coaches as well, because I was coaching a person just during the week, and they are doing a special combination of consulting, mentoring, a bit of training, a bit of knowledge sharing, and a little bit of coaching. And what they were finding frustrating is that exactly that they knew the answers, they were getting people to do things, but the results weren't coming. So the coach had attached themselves, a very experienced coach had attached themselves to the person's results. So now you've got this murky, I have to train them, coach them, consult them, / tell them what to do, because I now need to get that result out of the person. So there's a bit of pressure and all of that happening. But we've kind of blended the lines of what is coaching and what is it not, and what are we supposed to be doing, what's our role. So we've all been in those situations, and what I'm trying to express is, even as senior coaches, as experienced coaches, we just need to double check here, and that's what we're doing together.
I think too, it's when you mix that I'm a subject matter expert and I'm coaching someone, and I often get asked the question, well, what if they want, so from a HR perspective, what if the solution they want to do goes against industrial relations law or those sorts of things. And it's that bit where it's about, is this what they should do? Like you don't want to let someone go out and do something wrong, but it doesn't mean that you tell them what they should do. There's lots of ways that we can get them to where they need to go without it being by allowing them to figure out how they need to find the information rather than just telling them as well.
Spot on. And let's talk about that further as well, actually, because there's a bit of a yeah, but, and it's exactly what you just said. So let's explore that a bit further together. I think that's a great idea. And we've got a lot of experienced people on the line, so feel free to jump in with your opinions on this as well, or commentary as well. So I think the first step is to think about our role as coaches. And as I said, experienced coaches sometimes are doing this coaching, mentoring, special blend, which is wonderful. You're helping the people that are with you. You're bringing your HR practice, whatever it might be. But if we're going back to pure coaching, remember all of those webinars we did on the ICF core competencies, evoking awareness, the coaching mindset, ethics, etc. It all really comes back to those core competencies and our role as coaches. And I'm preaching, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but let's just remember that it's not our job to fix it. And this is what we tell rookie coaches in a Leader as Coach program. It's not our job to fix it. I was telling this to a senior coach. It's not your job to get the results. It's their job to get the results. And I'm telling here, or actually, was I telling? No, I was asking a good coaching question. Whose role and responsibility is it, was the question. So I was sticking to pure coaching, had to catch myself then. So it's not our job to fix it. It's not our job to tell, to judge, to advise. It's actually not our job to generate options or to lead them to an option. So quite often we hear people in the coaching, and Bridget will hear this in the Cert 4, where people have offered their coaching demonstrations and they will be not yet competent because they're obviously leading a person to an option that they think is best. And we're going to offer you more coaching demonstrations to hear as well, so you can hear that we're not leading people to choose an option. We're helping them generate, and it's entirely up to the person. And we know it can be frustrating as a subject matter expert because it comes from a place of wanting to help. It comes from a place of wanting to care for the person. And in my opinion, for what it's worth, it comes from a place of speed and efficiency. I don't have time for coaching. I don't have time to sit around and let them come to the answer. So let's just cut through this. I know the answer. Let's go for it. Well, that's all very good and well, but that's not going to grow and develop people. So we get it. We understand this tension around being a subject matter expert, the time, the results, the performance, etc., etc. For us, it comes back to, let's just really focus on what our role is as coach, and the person that we're working with and how we're trying to assist them. We talk a lot about situational coaching. There's a time and place for coaching. What if they don't have the subject matter knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. So we talk about all of those things, but I think it comes back to the fundamentals here as well. Paula, thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's about breaking it at a point too. So if someone is looking at options and they ask a question around, if you're the subject matter expert, they ask a question around, well, based on this, what is possible or not possible. Sometimes you can break it and go, well, let's have a look at these and go, can you not, and now that you have this information, let's talk about what those options are for you moving forward now.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my coaching, I often get asked, so now what do you advise? And what do you think? Or what do you advise? And every single time, if we're in a pure coaching situation, then we are saying, look, it's not up to me. It's not for me to judge. It's not for me to advise. You are in the situation, et cetera, et cetera. So, and sometimes the coachee, I've never really thought that the coachee gets frustrated with me, but we want to add value. We want to make a difference when we're coaching. So sometimes in the early days, there was pressure to add value, add the ideas, add the solutions, etc. So if we're in a pure coaching role, we're not going to do that. We also need to watch out that what we see also is once the coaching's finished, then people start to jump in and tell and advise and judge. And we see this in like a Leader as Coach program where, oh no, we've finished the coaching. now. We're just having a discussion about it. And that is code for, oh no, we finished the exercise, we did the GROW, but now I'm going to tell the person what I think, what my opinion is, and I'm gonna mentor them now. And people even say that, oh no, now I'm just mentoring. So we have to remember that the coaching process is not just the GROW. The person's got to go away, implement, get feedback, learn, etc. And if we jump in and start mentoring, telling, advising, then we're breaking that opportunity for them to learn and grow, etc., etc. So we get it's frustrating, the time, you're wanting to help, we get all that. But we do have to come back to what's our role. So here's the ideas in terms of the approach. It's for me, and what we try to talk about when we're running our programs is let it go. It's not about you. I have to sometimes remember, even myself, you know, as an experienced coach, that this is not about how many ideas I can generate. And believe me, I can generate ideas on anything. I love generating ideas. I love the creative space. I love the innovative space. And I certainly love expressing my opinion. So it's not about me. It's not about what I think the person should do. It's not up to me. So truly, when I say those words, I feel a sense of calmness inside myself, actually, even saying them to you now. It's about holding the space. It's about trusting the process. It's about believing in the person that they will find the answer to move forward. And I know there's experienced coaches on the line, and I know you know this, but even with myself, and I know Paula and Bridget, when we take the time out like we're doing now and reflect, we just remind ourselves about our coaching principles and our coaching mindset. And that's a great thing as well.
Natalie,
Yeah, so go on, jump in.
I was going to say, I've been helping my year 8 daughter with her study skills and building her capability. And this has been critical in this space too, is that you know, the plan that she comes up for her study each week does not look anything like how I would do it. And I had to really hold myself back to say, it's not about how I would do it. She's got the tools, right? She's got the tools and the know-how. And this is now about giving her that beautiful space to allow herself to develop what she needs in a way that works best for her. And it truly is that moment where you have to go, step back, people. It's not about you. It's about that person growing and developing and moving forward with it. And when you trust that process, great things happen from there. The confidence that people grow, there's all these little intrinsic things for that person that make such a big difference.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And definitely acknowledging you there, Paula, as well, because, you know, as a parent, we have our ideas. We want the best for our children, and we want to help. And again, it's about redefining how we help. And it's not just how we approach parenting, but it's how we approach all of our relationships, including our workplace relationships as well. And I agree with you. We want to bring out their best. We want to help them. We know stuff, you know. It is in the trusting the process, holding the space, accepting also. The acceptance I find sometimes tricky. It's like it's their journey. It's their journey. And that's tricky in the workplace when there's things to be achieved and goals to be achieved and outcomes to be achieved and performance to be achieved and et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard to say trust the process, it's their journey, etc. And that's what we experienced in the coaching session I had recently, is the coach was really struggling with that. So these are the real workplace topics we're talking about. What we do know, and as you would all agree, is that in doing this, it builds trust, it builds respect, it fosters strong decision making. This is the one bandwagon that I'm on with our children, is if we allow them, as Paula, you talked about, to decide how they're going to do some of these things, then they build the decision maker capability. We build them into good, strong decision makers. At level, we see often in government, people are just running decisions up the chain because because they need to. They're covering themselves, they're getting top cover, but also because they don't have confidence around decision making. So at certain levels and across the board, we can actually allow people to become better, stronger decision makers. And of course, that builds confidence, it builds accountability, it builds engagement, all of those things. We can see it with our kids when we let them be responsible for how they're going to study, or how they're going to clean their bedrooms, or how they're going to contribute to the household, etc., etc. So I've had conversations with my son. I think you need to make a contribution to the household, and you can start thinking about what that means, and then we can have the conversation. So yes, I'm leading him into that discussion, but by holding the space and trusting the process is about him working out how he's going to contribute, and that's the question we left him with. So there's so many benefits here in terms of what happens when we do trust, and at the same time we acknowledge that it's actually not necessarily always easy. So it's important to acknowledge that. Annie's offered, how do you feel asking open questions around the action, your possible solution, how they experience it, how they do it, what results they're currently experiencing, what could be done differently? All of those beautiful questions. For delegation, it's about how do you deal with delegating excessive tasks and works you've mentioned. Okay. So yeah, looking for our thoughts and that. So delegation is a really big thing, because sometimes it's actually often easier for us to do it ourselves. Of course, that old laugh, like we all laugh about it. It's if you've got something to do, just give it to the busiest person. Or if you say, oh, who can help with this? The person who doesn't stand back the quickest is the one that, everyone's in a line, and whoever stands back, the person's left in front, or things like that. So there's lots of jokes and memes about, give it to the busiest person, give it to the person who speaks up first, all of those kind of things. But for me, it comes back to when there is a lot of delegation to do, there's an excessive number of tasks, and we know that our teams are under the pump. For me, it comes back to, I need some assistance with this. I can't do it all by myself. We need to take a look at the workload. We need to redefine the workload, or something along those lines. I need your contribution. I need your assistance. So we're going to put that on the table up front. And then we're going to kick in our coaching questions. What have you got on your plate? What's the highest priority? Where does this sit, etc.? Who can help? Who can contribute, etc., etc. So all of that coaching comes in, and the delegation actually starts. Now, you might need to delegate this thing to this person, but in order for them to take it on and do it and do a good job, that's where our coaching has to kick in. What does it look like? How does it stack up against your other priorities? What are you going to do, not going to do? What do we need to do differently? Where can we get help? What other resources can we call upon? All of those coaching questions kick in.
I think too, Natalie, it's about the long term. It's about the long game, right? So coaching is actually about the long game rather than the instant gratification right now. So when you think about developing people, it's a long game. So yes, you can give them a solution today, but if you help them develop their decision making in the long term, it is actually beneficial to both parties. So when you're thinking about that delegation piece too, if you come from a perspective of how will this, I know people often think delegation, I'm just dumping the jobs you don't want to do with someone else. But if you look at it from the perspective of how could this assist that person in their development? Who would benefit from being able to have an opportunity to do this piece of work? It adds to the long game.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paula. And then the skeptics go, oh, yeah, so you're delegating this to me because it's a development opportunity, and I kind of laugh at that as well. And it's not that. It's actually going, well, who could do the task? Not 100% like I could do it, but maybe they can do it 80%, or maybe they could do it 70%, or maybe they could got something to contribute. So yes, the long game is it might take a little bit longer, but ultimately they're going to grow, develop, And that's actually what we want. That's the purpose of us being leaders as well. So the other thing I'm working on in my head, and I haven't quite worked it out, and we'll talk about this more over the course of the next few weeks as well, is this, again, the skeptics. Yeah, sure, that's all great, Nat. Yeah, get what you're saying there, Paula. Yeah, really great. Yeah, thanks for that. But what if you've got a better idea? So we've talked about all this and we're all on board, and you're talking to the people who are already great coaches and converted, but that's all great. But and so I love these. I like to address these buts. And what if you've got a better idea? And for me, that is see above. Let it go. It's not about you. It's not about how many brilliant ideas you can generate. So we've kind of talked about that. But then what about risk? As you mentioned earlier at the beginning of our coaching cafe, Paula, what about risk? And the one that kind of triggers me a little bit is, so do we just let them fail? Is that what you're saying? And this is where I'm playing around in my head with this, and we'll play around with this over the next couple of weeks. For me, this is about, let's do, and I've got this little 2x2 matrix, which I'm playing around with. And I'm sure someone's already done this, but we can have a think about it. There's a 2x2 matrix for those that can't see the screen. One is risk. And across the bottom axes, I've got, is it high risk or is it low risk? So across the bottom, is it high risk or is it low risk? And then on the vertical axes, I've got the payoffs or the rewards or the benefits. Are there positive payoffs, positive rewards, positive benefits, or is there negative payoffs, consequences, etc., etc.? So if something is that, so something that Paula talked about, if something is extremely high risk, so if their options and their solutions are very high risk and will have very negative payoffs, then we have a duty of care to speak up and say, well, that can't be done. Paula, in that bucket, I put what you described, which was if it's against the organisation policies and procedures, if it's going to create harm to the individual, to others, to the organisation, etc., etc. So the person's come up with an option and they've got their way forward, and it's high risk with negative consequences, then we're going to speak up. And it's not about a coaching hack here. It's about adopting our leadership, our management, our IR hats, as you said. So for me, it's about something could be a little bit riskier, and you have to define what risk means to you, you see. So what's risky to you may not be risky to me, might not be risky to the coach, the person we're coaching. It could have super positive payoffs. So I see this kind of 2x2 matrix where we're playing around in this space, having a conversation about risk and the rewards, or risk and the consequences. So if we go back to like something that's low risk. So what's the risk here? Well, the risk is that they do something and it's not quite right, but it's not going to have a super negative consequence. Then it's like, well, let them fail, let them go and do it, let them have that experience, let them see, because what if it has a really positive payoff and some really positive benefits, etc. So this is about our risk profile as ourselves, as leaders, as managers, as coaches, and it's also about the person we're coaching's risk profile as well. There will be for us, I think, things that crosses a line, but if it's not that, then the answer is yes. Let them go and see. Do we let them fail? Well, is it failure or is it feedback? Let them experience consequences, get that. It's not failure, it's feedback, and let them see how they go from there. Paula, we're right on time, but final comments about that?
Yeah, one of the questions I generally ask if I think someone's going to do something that, if I know that it's not going to, if it's against company policy, one of the things I like to ask them is, what is the impact if this fails? What happens if you don't get it right? Because it helps to really think about it from that perspective. But I also think the do we let them fail is if we live in a space of growth mindset, then failure isn't failure. The growth mindset says it's a piece of additional information that helps you grow and develop. And the only other thing I would put is, how do we know it's going to fail? Right? How do we know that if they do it in a way that it is successful? And if we step into that space and say it's going to fail, then we've not allowed for something to happen that just doesn't work for us.
Yeah, and a lovely way to finish off, actually, really thinking about that growth mindset as we know that, reframe it. It's not failure, it's feedback. And then what do we do with that feedback? How do we grow? How do we build on it from there? So thank you everyone for joining us. Hopefully that's a really thought-provoking conversation about something that we might take for granted, you know, and it's a good idea to dig into these things and think about our ideas and thoughts about this. We've got a lot of things coming up, our Cert 4, our diploma, we're doing Leader as Coach, we've got new mentor coaching going on and mediation services. So feel free and share your knowledge, etc., as we go along. And as we always say, we hope that you enjoy your coaching. We look forward to catching up with you at our next Coaching Cafe. We'll say goodbye for now.